Welcome to my video on Rich Media Comics creation. In this video, we'll look at the entire process from digital illustration to motion editing to sharing the finished digital comic online. Specifically, we're going to focus on page 29 of the Rich Media comic Roommate from Another Galaxy. The digital illustration will be done with software called Procreate, which is an app available on iOS. The hardware I'll be using is an iPad Pro 9.7 inch with an Apple Pencil. After we finish the panel and export the images, we'll be using an online software tool called the Comic Machine to create and share the Rich Media comic. So many of you have probably used Procreate or are using Procreate to draw with. It's an amazing program. The techniques that I'm gonna show you are preferences that I've developed on my own, and you may or may not like them. If you haven't used Procreate before, give these techniques a try, the brushes, and at the very least, hopefully you'll be entertained. So just as a background, this is a comic called The Roommate from Another Galaxy. It's a comedy, as you might have guessed. And the frame, this is the script, and these are the rough thumbnails that I've laid out for the comic. Again, we're going to export these into a Rich Media comic. We'll actually show how to create that using the Comic Machine. But the frame that we're going to actually be rendering right now, that is already finished, is on page 16, page 27. In this scene there, our hero, which is kind of a nerdy character, is walking with his alien buddy, which is actually kind of this Adonis looking very handsome character, and all the girls in his college are looking at him or at them for the first time. So in Procreate, there's a really neat feature which records every stroke that you execute. But before I do that, I just want to give you some kind of reference to where everything is. On top, I have a color layer which actually colorizes the images below to give it a duotone effect. I'm going to turn off all the layers here to show you what the process is like. So initially I have the really rough drawing that I actually did in Photoshop before. I mean, I could have done it in here, no problem. It's just that at the time I did it in Photoshop. It was really rough. And what I'm gonna do is click on here and then reduce the opacity so it's really light. And then what I'll be doing is with a blue line, I will draw on top of that to tighten up the drawing. I find this is better than trying to rework the rough drawing, because the rough drawing is pretty off as far as proportions and all that. It's probably harder to actually try to rework that than to do a new one. So using a blue line, the color is differential is far enough that it won't be too complicated to look at. You can differentiate between the two colors. So after the blue line, I'm gonna turn down that opacity too, so it's a little bit darker than the really rough. In fact, I'll probably won't need the rough line anymore. And on top of that, I'll do the black finished line, like so. Then I could either do the background, I have on a separate layer just in case I want some kind of movement. The sort of the base grayscale layer. I'm going to turn off the blue now so it doesn't complicate things there. The grayscale base, and then I have add a little more definition using a darker layer, which I label B. And then on top of that, as I mentioned before, I added a color layer, meaning color as far as you can see down by the right there. It gives it a duotone feel. So rather than doing an extremely long, excruciating video of me drawing it from scratch, I'm going to play the video of basically the drawing process sped up. It's not in real time, believe me. And then I will go in real time. I have to actually create a layer of his face expression changing, and then his hand actually waving at one of the girls, because he's talking to his the nerdy guy is talking to the handsome guy, looking at the other girls, and then he sheepishly says, "Hey, how's it going?" to one of the girls. So that I will draw in real time. So without further ado, here is the video. So now I'll take you through the added layers that I'm going to create. So everything that you see that's visible right now is in a folder called number 1. I'll close it and open it here. Right above it, right here, is as a rough of what I want to actually draw. So it's this guy Duncan who's sheepishly waving at the girls, and so I'm gonna gray that down quite a bit. Now as you can see, the no matter how far I gray it down, it's hard to actually see what I'm drawing with the stuff that's underneath. What I'm going to do is open up a new layer and then fill it with white. Fill layer, and then reduce the opacity so that you can sort of I'm going to turn off the blue. Oops, where is that blue? So I can turn down the block out some of the background so I can draw in peace. In fact, I might even this drawing is the head size is too big and it's a bit off, so I'm going to reduce the size of it. Whoops, I'm mistakenly drawing on the wrong layer, so I want to do this layer here. Great thing about Procreate is you can use your fingers. So if you have use 2 fingers, you can rotate or pinch and zoom. So it's approximately where I want it. The hand may be a bit off as well. Rotate it a bit more this way. So from here, I'm going to open up yet another layer. These layers you can delete later if the file gets too big. And I'm going to use a brush called, like it's an oval brush that has a streaky effect. I'll do another video describing all the brushes that I've used. And I'm going to take the opacity, the size down a bit, and then increase the opacity. And I am going to draw this Duncan guy. I'll do my head construction here. Roughly. Actually, I'm going to turn off this rough here because it's kind of distracting. So this character has kind of big hair and a big nose. Again, my head is a bit off position. I'm going to use an eraser to, if my lines are getting a bit too dark, I always have an eraser that's set on low opacity. The opacity is down on the left bottom toggle there, so I can sort of reduce the gray out the drawing so I can draw on it more. It's got kind of that sort of sheepish smile. So because you can see my my opacity is way up already, and it's still actually hard to get the pigment out. What I find it helpful is just to invert the grain. So the white area it means that there's more pixels being drawn. So you can see right now it's actually quite dense. I'll increase the size of it. So people who draw on digitally know that the less pixels you have on the screen, like if you zoom in a lot, the more harder it is to get ink out of your brush. So as you zoom in, you got to increase the opacity of the brush or the flow, as in Photoshop. So here I've actually just inverted the grain. With the grain, the texture and the grain of the brush is helpful when you have large brushes, because it sort of gives you that dry brush feel. When you're doing sketches, you you like to actually build up your line rather than doing that one stroke. I'm gonna do his hand now. Actually, I'm just gonna keep his forearm in the same spot and just change his hand. Actually, I'm gonna move this down a bit more. So it's an open palmed wave. Alright. I'm just gonna turn it on and off to see if it's the size is correct. That's about right. Forgot its little hair, wispy hair here. So I'm relatively satisfied with that. I'm going to turn down the opacity and possibly turn up the opacity on the white, so I don't want to be too distracted when I'm drawing. I'm going to get rid of this layer 29 here, and I'm going to open up, yes, another layer on top of that. I'm going to choose solid black, and I'm going to choose a flat. As you can see, this is the brush I'm going to be using. Like again, I'm going to do a whole video on brushes, but this brush is a follows the tilt. So whatever it follows the tilt of your Apple Pencil. In Photoshop, there's a thing called a 6D art pen, which actually, as you rotate the barrel, the brush rotates as well. But on the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil, that feature is not available. But you can get the same effect by tilting the brush in an angle that you want the flat part to go. So right now, like if you take two fingers, you can actually rotate this the flatness of this pen. Right now, it's perpendicular to the barrel of the tilt of the pen. I'll try to explain that more with diagrams in another video. So what does that mean? It first of all, because so I've got the right grain here. Because it's so small, I'm gonna increase the opacity. I want to decrease the size. I'm going to do the outline of the outer part of his face first. I'm going to increase it a bit more. So as you can see, depending on the way I'm holding the barrel of the pen, I can get a thick and thin line. And in a curved stroke, I can actually get a pretty nice thick and thin. So as you our students out there know, that the thick line of an outline is where the shadow is, and you want to go thinner as the line is towards the light. So you saw that was a very thin line, so I had to hold the barrel of the pen perpendicular to that line as I'm drawing. The smaller I get, I want to increase the opacity. He's got a big honking nose. Now with this type of flat pen, it's hard to draw small circles, so I'm going to switch to a more oval. I'm going to redraw that. And then I'll go back to the flat. I could take, let's see, the eyebrow is a bit too bushy there. I can take my eraser and erase out the tail end of it. Of course, you can move the canvas around with the 2-finger pinch. It's got kind of big hair. So as you can see, it's not just the way I hold the barrel that gives you the thick and thin of the line. It's also the pressure, so it's pressure sensitivity as well. So right here I want a thick line too, because it's in the shade here, so I'll hold the pen more in line with the line I'm drawing. As you can see here, I started out with the pen perpendicular to the line, and as I come around the bottom of that stroke, it's more in line. Actually, I probably don't need that forearm part because that's already existing. I'm holding the pen for those fingers because I want it small lines. The pen is held perpendicular to the line I want to draw. Let's see how that looks there. I wonder if that mouth is a bit too big. I use the lasso tool and then put on magnetic move. Take off the magnetic, and then yeah, that looks a bit better. There you go. I'm gonna erase out that forearm part because it's over an existing forearm. Take off the white. So yeah, this is obviously not gonna work without the gray and the white underneath. First thing I'm gonna do, this is layer 44 is the line. First thing I'm gonna do, I'll open up a layer and add white to block out the background. I use a oval shader, just an all-purpose brush. I'll choose white, and I'll fill in the area that the new drawing is on. Also, any drawing underneath that I want block out as well. This hand. So in those areas I'm going to have to obviously redraw part of the background. So at this point I'm gonna put all these new layers I've added into a separate folder. So to make a folder, you select the topmost layer that you want to make into a folder, and then underneath you swipe right all the layers that you want, and then you select the multiple line icon up here. Now you can actually turn it on and off now. I'm going to name that very original here, number 2. So that looks about right. The size of the head looks about right. His hand, it might be a bit too small, so I'm gonna increase it a bit. Oops. A lasso. Is it lasso? Lasso. turn on magnetic so it's all uniform as I size it up. There you go. I'm gonna have to fix up the bottom of that hand there. Get the black again. Alright, oh, and I have to fill in more white underneath because the hand is a bit bigger now. So the beauty of having a flat brush is that even in coloring, you can adjust the angle of the brush to fit into tight corners like the fingertips. So if I draw with the barrel in line with the fingers, you get a thin you know, brush, and if it's perpendicular, you get a thick brush for shading. Okay, so I am going to put up another layer to do the gray. I like using this brush here, which has a thick part and then a streaky part on the other end. So it automatically gives us some kind of shading. Like again, I'll explain those in the in another video. So what I do is I'll have to copy or use the eyedropper tool to select the base tone of the face. So we have to keep in mind the light is coming from the right side. I'm gonna tilt it so that it's easier for my hand. So as you can see, the brush, the bottom part of the brush is thick, and the top part is actually streaky. So it automatically gives me a shading, as if I'm holding a pencil on the side, without actually having to do that. You can sort of see an outline of the brush as I'm drawing. The hair, I think I'll do a sample. It's don't have to be accurate, but the oops, I'll sample a bit of that hair again. So I want to give some of that rim lighting off of the edge of that hair, so I'll leave the top part, edge of it, white. This will be black here. So that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna make the fingers more toned, give it more realism. Okay, we'll finish off more of that hair. So what I usually do, this is a gray base layer tone, gray, G for gray, and I'll name this line. If you don't have that many layers, you don't need to actually name them. You can keep track of it. Once you get significant amount of layers, it starts getting confusing, so it's probably best to name them, if not all, just the the most important layers, like the line or the base. So as you can see in my drawing here, I've got certain sort of that the transition from light to dark. You have this sort of defining line of the shade. So I'm going to achieve that by using a really streaky brush without with very little size. What I mean by size is when the pressure sensitivity is turned off very well. I've got it down to 16.5%. And I'm going to choose a dark gray brush, and I'll be doing it on a separate layer. You don't have to open up a separate layer, but I like that so that way I can sort of sculpt it. In case I go overboard, I can bring it back using the eraser. So I like this brush because it has a lot of control, and the extreme streakiness of it means I can build it up very easily. I'm gonna make it a little darker. Although because there's no sized pressure sensitivity, I adjust the size of the brush using the toggle. Darken his eyes there. Darken the area under his chin. So you can see I'm alternating between the angle of the barrel so that I can get thick and thin lines. See, now his hair, I'm gonna give it more definition. So if I hold it, because it's a flat brush as well, I can get pretty convincing hair strands in here. So the only thing I'm missing is a little glint in his eyes. Use a very round brush for that. Now I'm just gonna put that on. I'm not gonna open up a whole new layer just for that little dot. So I'm just gonna do it on the line layer. I want a small brush with very high opacity. There you go. And I think what I'm missing is a little more shading on the right side, even though it's in the sun, just to give it a more definition. Okay, and I'm going to use that streaky brush again on the gray layer. I'll tilt it so it's easier for my brush. There you go. I'm going to erase out some of that gray on the left side edge so that it looks like refracted light. And I'm good to go, I think. Let's turn on the layer, on that group of layers on and off. Great. So as you can see, one thing, I gotta fill in that background here that I had to white out from the head that was underneath. So I will go into my white layer and I'm just gonna wing it. I'm not gonna open up a new layer. Sample the color underneath. No, I can, if it's complicated enough, I should open up another layer for the line, but I'm just gonna say I'm gonna wing it. Choose black. I'm gonna make it add more grain to it. Okay, it's good enough. great. There you have it. So now that I'm finished, I can export the in Procreate. I can export the layers as JPEGs or PNGs. I mean, I could actually export the if I turn off the blue there, I can export this as a transparent floating layer, but PNGs are large files, so in the comic machine the JPEGs, well, smaller the better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the base layer first, and I'm going to use the share feature under the actions menu, and I'm going to export the JPEG as it is. My desktop is hooked up, so I'm using AirDrop to export that. And then I'm going to turn on the layer 2 group and export another JPEG. Alright, I'll be going over to the Mac now. So now I am on my desktop and have these two files. I've named them, let's see, 29A and 29B, that's the panel number. I'm going to use Photoshop to reduce the size to half that, because the comic machine supports displays everything at standard resolution. I mean, you can have oversized files if you're going to zoom in, but in this case we're not zooming in, so I'm just gonna export it. I'm gonna reduce the quality. It doesn't actually affect it that much, just to save on space. And I'll do the same to B. Oops. Okay, so they're both 1024 by 768. So I'm on my on the comic machine. I'm going to log in to the Create section, and this is my account. So these are all the comics I'm in the process of creating. So you see I've got the Roommate from Another Galaxy already here. I'm going to click on it. It'll load all the stuff that I've done so far. Yeah, so if you, I'm on a large screen, but the capture area is small, so you can actually reduce the size of the elements by just Command plus or minus. So far the comic machine is available. The creation part anyway is available on on a Chrome browser. You can actually view it on any device, including mobile devices. But I've reduced it to the size that will fit this screen capture area. I'm going to optimize it a bit more here. So down here is where all the thumbnail of all the pages. I'm gonna, since this is page 7 there, I'm gonna create another page in between these two here, a blank page, and I'm gonna import the two images. So because the images were sized to 1024 by 768, it's going to fit perfectly in there as I import it. I don't have to size it at all. So I'm going to go to my script here and find the text that I want to put in. So in this scene, Duncan says, "Please don't turn out to be insane. You're the first cool person who's ever willingly spent time with me. Just look at how people are looking at us." I'm gonna copy that onto the clipboard and go back to my web page. So number one is the layer. I'm gonna do a bit of a fade in. Is the image layer. 0.5 duration, start opacity 0, end opacity 1, ease in and out. So if I preview this page, there's a bit of a fade in, very quick. And I go to my first text bubble. So insert, add text under the layer menu, and I'm gonna paste that text in here. A bit too big, so I'm gonna go to my favorite size, 6 or maybe 7. No padding. This is a beta version of the software. I believe things are gonna actually improve on the next version of this comic machine. Oval, straight. I want like a little thinner outline for the bubble. The tail, I want curved. Probably smaller size. As you can see, there's already line breaks here. I'm going to take them out actually. Okay, so if I had anything to choose for the elevator, I would like a 6.5 point type. So I've set the line breaks the way I like, and then I'm gonna actually now add the bolding to certain words. I mean, just put in an asterisk between the two words that I want bolded. Willingly, I guess. Just look. Great. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna hit the save. And type, I like to have it fade in a bit as well. So I'm gonna choose the opacity as 0. The end opacity is 1. Duration of 0.5. Ease in and out. Okay, let's see how this works. Great. Oh, I didn't realize I had more space up there. I guess I'm gonna edit the text again, so it's up a bit more. So I chose a curved tail so that you can choose straight or none. Let's give it a preview again. Great. What's next? He says, oh, this is another part of the sentence. Nobody's ever paid this much attention to me. Hey, how's it going? So he says, nobody's ever paid this much attention to me. then he waves. So I'm gonna add another text. 6 point. Take out all the spaces and line breaks. Nobody should be bold. This much. No padding. Curved tail. Sorry. 2 points width. I'll just position it there, and I'll fade that in as well. Start opacity 0. Ease in and out. Let's give this a preview. Alright, so as you can see, the text appeared on top of each other. So you want to, I'll put a weight in after the first text bubble. So I'll just click on the weight button, which means that the next button will come up, as you can see right here. So it prompts the user to actually click on this before going to the next text bubble, and automatically it erases the last text bubble when this appears. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to add another weight after the second bubbles, because you want to give a chance for the reader to read it before going on to the next element. The next one is, hey, how's it going? This is where he sort of sheepishly, tongue twister there, waves to the girl. So I'm going to add that second image. I don't want it to be too abrupt, so I'm going to give it a 0.75. Sorry, that's not duration there. That should be 0. I put it in the wrong section. Duration 0.75, opacity 0, and opacity 1. So it sort of fades in. And then there's a text layer that says, hey, how's it going? Oh, that's not it. Hey, how's it going? Okay. I don't want any padding. I'll make hey bold. So add asterisk before and after. And going, I'll make it bold. I'll apply all the parameters. Curved. 1 point. I think it's all done there. Oh, the tail should be thinner. Okay. So before this this text comes out, I'll give it a little bit of a longer wait so that he waves and then sort of nervously says his line. So I'll put 0.75 and start opacity 0 and opacity 1, and this would be a, wait a sec, what happened to the text? Okay. it'll be a weight as well. So let's, well, before we do anything, let's save the comic, for heaven's sake. Let's preview the page. Alright, click next. Nobody's ever paid this much attention to me. Click next. He waves sheepishly. Hey, how's it going? Alright. So what's going to happen next is Lang is going to talk, and we want Duncan here to actually change his expression from waving to just as he was before. So as you remember, we added image number 4, which is him waving. We want to actually now, after the wait, is to fade that out and then add his new line, which is it's true, I can prove it to you. So this is Duncan's line right now as it stands. Hey, how's it going? So to do that, we're going to go into so as you remember, this is the text line. Hey, how's it going? We go back to the image layer, which is 4, and we go to the transitions. Right now, as you remember, it starts off at 0 opacity, and in 0.75 seconds it fades in, and then it stays at 100%. So in order to fade it out, we have to set these parameters right here. We go to set current, which is the locking in the amounts, and we do that to the end as well. And once we do that, as you can see, there's an add transition option that pops up. And what this allows us to do to add another transition that will come up after the text layer. So if I click that and then close this layer, actually automatically opens it up, which is layer 6, but I'll close it so you can see we are in layer 4, and when we hit add transition, we came up with layer 6, which comes up above layer 5. And as you can see, the start is grayed out because the start happened in back in layer 4, so that's not is not changeable in this layer. What we can do is transition to another state, which what we want to do is transition it into 0. So I'll enter 0 opacity. I'll make it a duration of 0.75, just as how it initially faded in. Choose ease in and out, and I'll set that. So we don't want to add a weight now because we want him to deliver the line, if not right away, very soon after layer 6. So what we want to do is add image, add text, and I'm going to copy and paste the text. This piece of text is I've already actually broken down the line breaks. Go to 6 pixels, 0 padding. I'll have a curved tail at 2 pixels and a border of 1. So again, this is Lang, so we want to bring it over to his side. Okay, I'll position it right there. So I want to make, let's say, true as bold and prove as bold. I'll put asterisks surrounding those words. Okay, and we're gonna hit save. And again, the duration of fading in is 0.5. Start at 0 and at 100. And I'll add a weight. Okay, and of course I'll go hit the save. So again, what's happening here is the wave happens. He delivers the line. Hey, how you doing? The wave fades out in this in layer number 6. It fades out, and then in half a second, he delivers Lang delivers is true, I can prove it. So let's go and preview this page to see if everything's in working order. Hit next. Nobody's ever paid this much attention to me. Hit next. Hey, how's it going? Hit next. As you can see, his face goes back to normal again, and Lang delivers his line. It's true, I can prove it. So in this panel, there is more dialogue after this. After Lang says, "I can," it's true, I can prove it. Duncan says, "How can you read minds? No. Can you move things with your mind? Can you fly? No. But I'll do those off camera, and then when we return, I'll show you how to publish and share it." Okay, we're back, and as you can see, the last layer we had was number 7, but we've added quite a few more. This is all the dialogue that was in the script. As you can see, there's a pattern of bubbles, of 2 bubbles, and then a wait. So every time the wait is applied, whenever the reader clicks the wait click button, it deletes all the text on the dialog bubbles on the screen, so it refreshes it for a new. You don't have to actually delete it somehow. So let's preview it to see what it's like. Go full screen. He turns and waves. Hey, how's it going? Let's treat me favorite. How can you read minds? No. Can you read? No, you can see here. We probably after no, we want to add a little more of a delay before he delivers his line. Can you fly? No. So this is no. This is layer 9, so layer 10. Let's add a delay of 0.5 seconds. Now let's preview it again. Yeah, that was better. I noticed there wasn't a fade in of that. No, because we didn't add duration for fade in. So I'll add duration of 0.5, and the start opacity is 0. Alright. So there you have it. So now that we've finished this panel, I'm going to save it. Make sure you check this box for publishing it to the gallery, otherwise the changes won't be, well, the entire comic won't be available in the browse section. Alright, so I'm going to close this comic. And we'll go to the browse section, all comics. There it is. So now that this is published, it's actually there is no share button installed yet on the comic machine, but in order to share it, you just load up the comic and then just copy and paste the URL at the top of each comic. They're unique to each comic anyways. And you can go full screen. This is more like theater mode right now. So right now you can only create, as I said before, on the desktop on Chrome. But to read it, the browse section, you don't have to log in. You can read it on any device, practically, even on a phone. I think on a smaller phone, it's kind of difficult. But yeah, any device, any mobile device, any laptop, desktop, and so there you have it. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.